Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we're going to have a brief look at the new Ubuntu 23.04 beta. This is not an LTS. This is a midpoint release. Remember, the LTSs are 24, 26, basically the even number year .04. Now, my previous video this week, I had apparently I might have said in there somewhere LTS. I don't think I did, and I rewatched the video. So if I did actually say that somewhere, let me know where, because I missed it 3 times. I looked for that because the number of comments is it's just not this. I said the next release. I didn't say the next LTS release that I know of, but this is not an LTS release. This is a point release, and they tend to do a lot of little experimental things. The experimental thing this time is a brand new installer built in Flutter. Let's go ahead and walk through the various little changes that we will see from OMG Ubuntu. So this is the Lunar Lobster, or as I might say, the Loony Lobster, completely ditching Flatpak support, not only for itself, but even insisting that all of the flavors also dump all Flatpak support out of the box. But that's another story for another day that I have already told in the past. But here is the new features in brief. Not a whole lot. Brand new installer is the biggest major feature here, built in Flutter, and I found it to be a very easy installer to walk through. It is even more user-friendly than the previous one, which is very nice, so you can get a chance to see that. And I'll show you what the install is. I'm going to boot this up on real hardware, just have a look at the live key on real hardware on a laptop, and then we're going to install it onto a virtual machine to have a look and just poke around a little bit on the installed. The other thing that we now have is the Ubuntu dock is going to give you a notification badges to indicate any notifications. Of course, you can manage notifications per application in the Ubuntu settings as of a few releases ago, maybe even the last LTE ago. So, but now you can actually get badge notifications on the Ubuntu panel. That's kind of a nice little feature. Here is the new options for Bluetooth connectivity and things, and I show you that Bluetooth does actually show up on the laptop. I don't have Bluetooth on the computer we do our streaming stuff on, so that's not going to be in the install. We also get larger login screens. We're going to have a look at some of these. This runs the Linux kernel 6.2 modified kernel. We can manage WireGuard VPNs and sharing Wi-Fi network passwords with a QR code. That's kind of neat. I did not experiment with those at all. But inside of here, we do have just a few other updates, of course. Not a whole ton of differences. Of course, the biggest change in 23.04 point release is that Ubuntu Cinnamon is now an official flavor, and no, that is not the end of Linux Mint, for reasons that the other video I did this week will highlight. So let's go ahead and look at the, we're going to look at it before we install it on real hardware, and then we're going to go ahead and look at it, the installation and poking around inside of that. All right, before we install Ubuntu on the virtual machine, I did want to go ahead and spin it up on some real hardware, just have a brief look at real hardware. So this is actually being installed on Ventoy. I wasn't sure if that would work because the ISO file for this version of Ubuntu is now over 4 gigabytes. So keep that in mind. If you're backing up copies of distros, you need to make certain that you're not using FAT32, because FAT32 has limitations on file sizes at 4 gigabytes. This is 4.5 to 4.8 gigabytes in size, and so it is not going to fit on standard media. I wasn't sure if Ventoy would work, but after looking into it, Ventoy uses exFAT, which does allow a greater size of drives. So this is actually a live key on a Dell Inspiron laptop, booted off of Ventoy. And I wanted to highlight this because this computer has Wi-Fi, this computer has Bluetooth. So if you are using the new GNOME, notice that Bluetooth and Wi-Fi options are here. Airplane mode options are still also here. Those are things that you don't see on my desktop because those are features that are not available over there. So here we have, these are actually this is the Ventoy. So you can see error mounting Ventoy. All right, it's already mounted. All right. Let's see if I can actually open Ventoy. Unable to access Ventoy. Oh well. I'm not going to attempt to access the SSDs. These are the SSD that is in the drive. This is the one that we recently on a video cloned. And for you that's like, you should be a professional YouTuber and get a capture card. That's what this is. If you actually watched that video, I actually mentioned why it wouldn't work with a capture card. Just so you know, just capture cards aren't just plug it all in. But this is actually the capture card. So here's actually a little bit more expanded software options since we're running this live. So you can see we have Mines, we have Solitaire, basically all those old video games that you'd get running the old Windows computer, right? Here's card style, and over here you have a variety of different solitaire games that you can play. Isn't that great? So here's the, ooh, I've never seen the wall. All in all, it's just another brick in the wall. All right. Battery indicator seems to be working right, 51%. Yikes, time to charge the laptop there. Overall, though, the thing seems to work pretty nicely on real hardware. Now, of course, we're going to go ahead and install it on a virtual machine and see how that works. Here on Boxes, we're going to create a virtual machine, and we're going to operating system image, and I keep mine in downloads. And somewhere inside of here, I'm going to have the new Ubuntu. There we have 2304 beta. Let's hit customize, give it more memory, give it 6 gigs. And 21 gigs of disk space. That is good. Go ahead and hit that. And let's go ahead and maximize this. So we can try or install. And test memory, we'll just go ahead and hit the try or install. Now this version of Ubuntu has a brand new installer. So we're going to see what that looks like. So we get onto our splash screen here. Very nice looking splash screen, sporting the new Ubuntu logo, which has come out recently. We have a nice, the narrowed in, and then we have the spinning Ubuntu down here. So in my GNOME boxes, it's not giving us the full screen. We have full screen over on the panel, but we don't have the full screen for the actual desktop space. So let's just go ahead and run this through the best we can over here. So this is the new installer. First time I'm looking at it. So we're going to start with English. That's the default. We have install or try. So let's go ahead and run the install. Again, keyboard layout, US English, and then you can test your keyboard here. So that's good. That's good. All right, so now we use a wired connection, or I don't want to connect to the internet right now. Now we have a normal or we have a minimal. So the normal gives us the web browser, utilities, office software, games, and media players. Minimal just gives us the basic utilities and the web browser. Let's go ahead and run with the minimal install. We're going to install third-party software, and we're going to download and install extra media formats. So basically the media codecs is what this used to say. They're trying to make it more user-friendly. I'm not a huge fan of that type of stuff. All right, so we can do advanced features, which is going to use LVM and encryption, or we can do none. We can also do manual partitioning, and we are, of course, erasing the disk and installing. These are the devices, and then the following partitions are going to be created. Go ahead and hit the install, choosing our location, so New York. And let's just do Ubuntu as the name here. Username is Ubuntu, and let's see if it lets me do my super secret password. That's definitely not 123. It does tell me that is a weak password. Hopefully it lets me use it. It does. So now I can use the light or the dark appearance on the installer. That's nice. And now it's going ahead and copying the files. We're going to wait for this to do its thing. I'm looking at the transition screens in between these here, and it's telling us various things that we have. So here's private and secure. Here's Ubuntu provides all the tools you need for security, and included we have Firefox, WireGuard. Let me go back to that one. Firefox, WireGuard available. We have Bitwarden. We have Brave. Not sure what that has to do with firewall and VPN support, but obviously WireGuard is VPN support. Bitwarden is password management. Of course, Firefox and Brave are web browsers. Here's production. So included, we have Thunderbird, we have LibreOffice, we have available Microsoft Teams and Slack. You can see where Ubuntu is certainly targeting more of the corporate look, corporate feel. This is something they've been doing that some people love and some people don't. So here is 66% of developers prefer Ubuntu. All right, access for everyone. So here's your accessibility menus. Here's your help and support information. So you can actually click on these and open up a web browser. We're not going to do that. Looks like that's been through all of them. Let's go back and see what the other ones were. So here's the installation screen. Here's all the applications available: Spotify, Shotcut, Telegram, Nextcloud. Here's developing tools, VS Code, Idea Ultimate, PyCharm, Get Kraken. It's the Kraken! Available for creativity with Blender, Audacity, Kdenlive. Of course, we can note that every Linux distro has these. There's nothing special about this. So here's gaming stuff. We have Feral Game Mode. We have available Steam, Discord, OBS Studio. And then that leads us back to where we were. All right, so here it gives us the continue testing or restart now. We'll go ahead and hit the restart now button. And now we land on our desktop. We're getting ready to log in for the very first time. Ooh, I should have looked at what our options are. We'll look at our options when we do have a quick look here. All right, so now we have the ability to set up Google, Nextcloud, or Microsoft. We'll go ahead and skip that. Now we can do the diagnostics. No, we're not going to send any of that. Now we can turn on location services. Default is turned off. And then here, if we want to open the Ubuntu software store, we can go ahead and do that. So here we're landing on it, and for whatever reason, they have put the icons on the lower right of the screen. Doesn't make any sense to me, but that's something they did, not this version, but the version just before that. And what we're going to do from here is we're going to go ahead and look around. So I'm going to pause the video here, poke around myself, and then I'm going to come back and show you what I found. All right, so now on the login screen, we're going to click over here. We're going to highlight the settings down here. This is something in the GNOME. I think it's GD. Is this GDM? I think the login manager for GNOME. So the default is Wayland, and you can do Ubuntu on X as well if you want. So you just have to toggle that switch down to there. We're going to switch to the default Wayland, which is very stable. I think Ubuntu did a really good job a few years ago in skipping Wayland as the default on the LTS and then moving to the next point release. And so we're going to come over here, get logged in. Now we are logged in under Wayland. What I was saying there is originally Ubuntu was going to push out Wayland in one of the LTS systems, but they end up not doing that because of some stability issues. They rolled it out on the in-between. Remember, there's 3 in-between releases before each LTS, which happens on the even number 04. Something I did mention in the last video, a lot of people said, well, the next LTS there. I do not recall I said the Ubuntu Cinnamon Remix is going to be in the next LTS. I don't think I did that, and I did watch the video again. I did say the next release. If I was wrong on that, let me know where, because I completely missed it twice, maybe 3 times, including the first time I said it. Not outside the realm of possibility that I make a Freudian mistake, because I tend to speak faster than I think sometimes. But that being said, let's go ahead and get logged in. Of course, we did see the notification that there's more software available, and for whatever reason, we're getting these things. No, we're not going to send any updates to that. We get landed in over here, and I did get a chance to poke around in here before we did much else. So here, of course, is the Snap Store. They're offering us some applications here out of the box. Here is updates. We have an update to the Snap Store, update to GNOME 42. We're not going to push those updates right now. We can go ahead and search for any software in here. Let's just do the Kdenlive as the package I always like to search for. And when we have it over here, Then we can see that this one's from the Ubuntu universe. It's not from the Snap. I'm not sure. Usually we get a Snap version there as well. Let's look at Firefox real quick. Of course, the Snap version of Firefox is installed. I'll show you that in a moment. That's an actively aware Firefox. Keeps a separate Firefox profile for each activity. Here is the default Firefox, which is installed. And you can see the Snap Store version is installed. And then there's a variety of options that we have. It is the latest stable. We can do a candidate, a beta, an edge, or we can do an ESR stable or ESR. So there are options. If you have a few different options available for your download, they will appear up there in the source. There have been a few issues with that in the past, making sure things are correct there. Usually Kdenlive I do because they do have a Snap version and a repository version. Let's look at Simple Screen Recorder. That should have a few different options. Of course, this is one of those controversial ones because there at least at one point in time were 2 completely unofficial SSRs in there. And then we have this one here. And this one here is, I think, the more official one. We have just the Deb version. We have this one over here is the unofficial one, which is a Snap version. And then we have this one is, I guess, the super unofficial one, also a Snap version. So you have a few different options in there. And I've mentioned in the past a little bit about some issues with that. We're not going to mention it here again. Let's just do the Snap list just to kind of show you what all's going on here. So the default snaps, of course, we just have the basic, the bare, the core. Firefox is the only one not by Canonical specifically. We have GNOME 42, 2204 changes, GTK common theme, Snap Store, Snapd, and the Snapd desktop integration. So these are all what we have. Now, of course, this is the first one without Flatpak support out of the box. So you can see that Flatpak is not found. It can be installed. Let's go ahead and give that a try. Sudo apt install Flatpak. This is something I didn't try on my in-between, just to go ahead and test how it works, make sure there's no bugs to that. Of course, if you try and install Snap inside of Linux Mint, it will give you an error unless you explicitly unblock Snap. Linux Mint has done that to prevent Snap from being installed through an apt package like Firefox. So now let's look at Flatpak version. So now we do have Flatpak support. So Ubuntu removing Flatpak is not a big deal. It's just like any other distribution that doesn't have it out of the box. Simply install it. Of course, we might need to install a plugin for it, which I forget exactly what it is. It's going to be very much like this, like Flatpak desktop integration. I think it's something like that. I forget that, but this video is not about Flatpak. So, of course, once Flatpak's installed, you're going to also need to install a Flatpak repository. All right, other things that we have up here, of course, this is the latest GNOME. So we do have a very nice option here for easily toggling the color schemes between light and dark. We also have a nice toggle between your balanced and power saver modes. And then we have a new screenshot tool right here where you can specify the portion of the screen that you want to do. You can do a screenshot, a screen share. You can do the whole screen. You can do a window or a selection, and this button is going to take your screenshot. Those are nice options to have embedded directly into the system. Of course, we have our settings over here. The Ubuntu specific settings, we do have the appearances, so we can easily go between the default and the dark mode, and then you can now choose your accent color as of not this version, but a couple versions before. I believe this is the Yarrow theme is what I believe this theme setting is called. Something the new Linux Mint upcoming up 21.03, I think. Whatever the next Linux Mint version is going to have a version of the Yarrow themes for those that like them. Not as the default, but as an option. We have a couple nice backgrounds here as well. Here's our lunar lobster. Nice background here. Very good lobster with a nice lunar appearance to it over there on the side. So there we have it. some of the basic defaults on that. Of course, Ubuntu desktop, other options, we can do the desktop icons, we can do the normal, small, large, or tiny. And again, I do not know why they put them on the bottom right. By default, you can go ahead and position new icons on the top left if you find that a little weird as well. You can turn on or off the personal folder. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you can actually put the other desktop icons on there, but let's see. Desktop icon settings. I guess that's just going to open us up to right here. So apparently we can't put on the trash can and other stuff, although the trash can is on the panel, so I'm not sure why you'd need that specifically since it's always on the panel. Can auto hide the dock or go between the smaller panel or the panel mode, and then of course the icon size as well, something you can set, and then where everything is at. And then here's your dock behavior, so you can include your network volumes. These are basically the types of things that you would show on the desktop. Now they're simply on the dock instead. Everything else in here is going to be standard to GNOME 42, and so nothing else in there super out of the ordinary. We do have our help, we have our software, and overall, I have not encountered any real issues with this. We did get that one instance of, hey, something has happened. I've never seen that several times in Ubuntu over the years, and I still have no idea what in the world the problem was. So it's not exactly a bad deal. So looking at the system processes, we're running at 1.4 gig out of 6 I gave to this machine. So that is pretty heavy with modern Linux distribution options, but it doesn't make it feel slow or sluggish or anything like that. I would say that this is not problematic, and overall, it's not really a bad system at all. I wouldn't have, there's no lagginess factors that I would have to consider. Of course, the Linux kernel, this is using Linux 6.2. Our default system is Wayland, virtualization KVM. GNOME version is apparently not available. It is 42. And then here's our OS name, development branch, disk capacities, and other things like that. So overall, the new Ubuntu, it is looking pretty good. I've not noticed any real major issues with this. So the beta, I'd say, is it is returning back to the old days where you'd install it and you don't even know it's a beta. And that's really awesome. I do like how stable it is becoming. Obviously, the big downsides, I'm not a huge fan of pushing everything on Snap. And I don't like the big corporate push necessarily Ubuntu is doing, but that's me. You may not have any real issues with that. You can, of course, come over here if you want to choose where you're downloading your servers from. So you can choose your main server or you can choose your locality. This is going to be where are your updates coming from. Generally, you want to change this to be something closer to where you are at. If you have any other PPAs or any other software, they'll appear over here. And then you can notify LTS versions only, any new version, or never. So if you're just trying to do a full production, you don't want a lot of things change, always make sure in Ubuntu that this is changed for LTS support versions. It's going to prevent you from updating to a non-LTS later. And then here's your various updates. Check for updates daily, when there are other updates weekly. So other options like that. So there is what we have as far as available in the Ubuntu. Again, this was the minimal version, so there's no extra software installed. This is just out of the box. And overall, it seems like a pretty decent system here. Let's go ahead and look at this. So it looks like 9.3 gigabytes. So our whole system has taken about 11 gigabytes. So there is our look on Ubuntu 23.04 beta. Of course, one of the big takeaways, the biggest thing to be cautious of is the size of this is over the 4 gigabyte limit for FAT32. And so make sure if you are doing backup archives of distributions, if you're transporting them across USB drives or other things like that, or even burning to a CD, you now need to use a double layer DVD to burn it, 4 gigabytes per layer on a DVD. You also would need to be cognizant of the type of file system on USB ports. I did test this out in Ventoy, since Ventoy uses an NTFS for the partition that holds the distributions. This is safe. I did officially boot this off of Ventoy, so if you're using Ventoy, you're safe with that mode of transport. Just be aware of the large file size being done. That is also a ding on the data bandwidth. Of course, I downloaded this at a friend's house, so I didn't have to worry about that. But just be aware of the large file size. Also, pay attention to the new flavors. Of course, we have Ubuntu Unity was recently added, and Ubuntu Cinnamon is officially added in this release cycle as well. So stay tuned with those, and we'll get a chance to see what the other options are once this actually comes out. We'll have a look at a few of these when this actually drops. With that, thanks for watching, everybody, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.